good from me. Oh, don't you take my good.
What a talent you are.
Thank you. That's so nice. I was like, look at me. I didn't put any makeup on.
I love it. No, I love it. You're super fashionable, strawberry shortcake thing going on. Like, I love it. Whatever that is. It's like super cool. What is it?
This is one of my new favorite shirts. It says, I have so much room in my heart.
Exactly. Okay. I love it. Listen, that should be our motto for everybody. I love it.
So much room in my heart.
Yeah, I know. Because we all need a little more mushroom nowadays. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Christina. Well, listen, I mean, Nowhere Sounds Lovely. Your album comes out April 2nd. We had a chance to preview it. And I mean, first of all, it's spectacular. So congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been a long time in the making. I mean, it didn't take an excessively long time to make it. I recorded it. I think I started in February 2018, though.
Yeah.
So, it's been a long time between the recording. Then I went on tour while we were mixing. So I had to do mixing virtually. And I just was like, this isn't going to work. So I had to wait till the end of summer to come back in person and go in there and mix it properly. And we redid vocals and stuff. So
were you mixing it like in the tour bus, like in the hotel rooms, like that kind of thing?
No, first of all, love that you think I have a tour bus. Love that. I'm going to manifest that energy into the next year.
Of course.
I drive around in my car and I do a lot of camping when I go touring. So It wasn't the easiest it just didn't work because I didn't have pro speakers and I kept hearing, hot, this is the vocals are hot, whatever. Yeah. And I'm like listening through a JBL. So of course.
Yeah, that's tough.
It just made it difficult.
It's your baby. It's your baby. You want it perfect.
Right. So I came back after tour and we mixed it and then we wanted to shop it. So it sat for another year or so while we were trying to see who might pick it up. And I finally just decided to put it out on my own because I love the record, but it's time to make some new music. And I figured I could do a good job since no one picked it up. It might not be the same as a label, but I just wanted to get it out into the world at this point, So
gotcha. It's almost like you creatively, you're evolving, and the album is still not out there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. And, I wrote most of the songs on the record on my first ever kind of tour. And it was the summer before I recorded the record. So really I'd been playing I wrote them that summer and continued to start playing them during the gigs of that tour.
Yeah.
Because it was 5 months long, my tour. So they came out kind of throughout that 5 months. Then I moved to Nashville, started recording the songs. And this whole time I've been playing these songs live, so it's starting not to get old, but any musician knows what it feels like where you're like, I have stuff that reflects, where I'm at now. And it reflected where I was 2 years ago and everybody changes, hopefully. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, yeah, everybody changes, but like they say, change is automatic. Progress is not. So it's the progress part that is the one that we choose, right?
Totally.
But I mean, okay, we'll talk about the new songs in the new album in just a second. But in full disclosure to my audience, Cristina, a few days before taping this, I had a chance to see you perform some of the new material here in Nashville. Incredible. Your songwriting just permeated through the walls and people were stopped in their tracks, holding their beers, stopped playing pool. Everyone just stuck on your every word. It was really, really powerful to see. So that was really
my turn. Oh, don't you take my good from me. Oh, don't you take my good from me. You can run, you can hide, but I hear the roars what you can say.
Thanks. I mean, I just got goosebumps because that was the only show with human beings in a space that I've played all pandemic. I had my last show
Interesting.
March 13th, I think, at Acme with my string band, and everything was
Yeah.
starting to feel weird. Everyone was kind of noticing that we're probably headed towards something scary. And the very next day, they issued the lockdown. So
Mm,
I personally, I've done some live streams from my house. I've done one from Dee's, but there was no one in the bar.
right.
And so it was Dee's has been doing a really great job as far as it goes during the pandemic. They put in filters, they keep everybody
Right.
distant. They have,
They're
you
super
were
strict.
there.
Yeah.
Normally they even have the person taking the temperature.
Hmm.
So I just felt comfortable, and I felt like, I need to work a little bit. It's hard. I've been doing other stuff for sure, and
Yeah.
gigging
Hmm.
locally isn't necessarily always the biggest revenue income, but tips are like, my grocery food and stuff like that. And I used to have 4, sometimes 5 gigs a week. But I have been doing a lot of like some voiceover stuff, some commercial acting, things that are other ways to make money that I find more
Yeah.
safe. I don't really want to get a band together and endanger them with
Right.
rehearsals and stuff. And I'm definitely not going to play unrehearsed. So I felt like taking a solo gig and a short set in a place I felt very safe with felt like a
Hmm.
really good but self-indulgent thing for me to do. And so it's really nice to hear that it translated, because I just I hadn't physically been in front of people with my instrument singing my songs for 6 months.
Right. No, you
It was
killed
a
it.
really intense feeling. So I hope it came out.
Sounded great, and some of the new songs sounded outstanding. So
Thanks.
like really, I wouldn't just be saying this, but yeah, to introduce you to my audience, from your 2016 EP Shades to now, just a great career in a short amount of time. You've opened for folks like Bob Weir, Winona Judd, Dwayne Vetts, and played iconic venues like the Fillmore in San Francisco. So you're pretty modest, but like you're very accomplished. You're super talented, and we're happy to have you on the show. So welcome.
Thank you. That's really nice.
Yeah, of course, Christina. So, I love your life. Your life story is like fascinating, obviously. I mean, you were born obviously in Southern Italy, American dad, Central American
Actually,
mom.
Northern Italy. My dad's
Northern Italy.
family is Sicilian. Like, so he's Sicilian American. He was born in
Oh,
Connecticut, but our extended family still lives in Sicily, and we're still close with them. But I was actually born in the north in Turin, where the Winter Olympics were all that time
yes.
ago.
The
So yeah.
coffee, lavasa, and all that. Okay, so big difference, because the Southern people, they say are happier in Italy. I love Italy. I've been there quite a few times, but the Northern people are the hardest working.
Yeah, there's
That's
that
like that's a
stereotype
stereotype.
everywhere,
Yeah.
right? It's here too, the Southerners or whatever, and the Northerners generate the money. I think that Italy is really interesting. I'm not going to get too into it because it's not a history lesson, your poor listeners. But Italy was unified very late, so each region is still very like particular about even the dialect. People still associate strongly with the region over the country in some cases. So of
Yeah.
course, yeah, the North being close to Switzerland and Germany, having those influences, being close to
Right.
France, very different personalities, usually very different
That
way
makes
of
sense.
interacting. And in the South, they had a lot of Moorish and Arab and North African people
Okay.
coming in, and Greek. And so that's the more
That makes total
stereotypical
sense. That makes total
Italian.
sense.
We're
Yeah.
all tan, but in the north they're like sometimes blue-eyed and tall and not
Right.
like
Right.
me. I'm like
Right.
very Sicilian
I
looking.
just want to know how in the north they can eat so much gelato and like still look like sticks. That's the only that's but anyway, that's for another episode.
Yeah, that's a big
Um,
question.
yeah, absolutely, Christina. And okay, so since you were very young, you started studying classical voice, music theory, piano and flute. Were your parents musical, or like was it just like Northern Italy, European like ambiance kind of thing?
Well, my father is certainly very musical. He actually wanted to be an actor and be in theater, like in
Hmm.
musical acting, but he actually came from pretty much nothing and just didn't have the means to do that and support himself when he was in college and paying for college and all that stuff. So he, especially when he met my mom and they got married, kind of put those dreams aside and went to work in finance. And in that sense, I feel like he's always been extra supportive of us because he
Right.
wants to like provide the life that he wished he
That's
could
nice.
have. It is really nice. And he's a great singer. He's a really big personality. My mom loves music, but she's not musical. She doesn't sing much.
Yeah.
She sings pretty out of key if she does, but she loves music. And yeah, they started me with piano, was the first thing, but I sang forever. Like I just always sang in my
Out of the
crib.
womb. Yeah.
Honestly, I know it sounds cliche, but my
No,
mom
no, not at
told
all.
me a story of, the baby monitor, and she would hear this like rah over the baby, and she would come in, and apparently what I would do is, this is funny because it's not my profession, but apparently when I was a baby in the crib, I would take all my clothes off and throw everything out of the crib while I was singing the whole time and then fall asleep in my diaper, just like tired.
That's great. Yeah, that's
So
funny.
I think they always knew I liked music. And yeah, piano was the first thing. I was pretty good at it, but I never learned to sight read music. I just kind of memorized everything, which made my teacher crazy. And then it
So
just went
okay,
from there.
so you weren't like, you're like one of these like, musicians that like just like out of ear kind of thing.
Yeah, I've always had a very strong ear. I was in choirs a lot, and that kind of makes you listen for your part and be able to sing with other people and stuff like
Right.
that. And then when I moved to Italy from Paris, because I moved around my whole life in Europe, and I did grade school or primary school in
In
Paris.
France, yeah.
Yeah, and then I went to Italy for middle school, and in that time we were in a small town called Varese. There was
Mm.
a little music school, and everything was in Italian, but I took theory. So my theory is actually very like old school Italian style theory,
I
where we
love
did solfege and learned to read rhythms and notes. And I also took voice lessons that whole time with a woman,
Yeah.
and I took 6 months of guitar lessons, and that's when my guitar started for the
Yeah.
first time. And it was classical guitar, like very strict,
Right.
get your hand in the right position. And I took about 6 months before my brother and I both stopped. But it was enough to learn chords. And that's later on became how I wrote songs, because I knew
Well,
my chords
yeah.
already.
They say here in Nashville, you just need what, 3 chords and the truth. But
They
that's
say
that's the
they
old
say
saying. But
that
yeah,
for country
but it makes
music,
sense
but
actually. Like
sorry, go ahead.
it's not true, right?
Well, I was just gonna say that
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Nashville is I moved here because the musicianship is so astounding. Like, yes, for a good country song, you need
Right.
3 chords and the truth, but the musicians here definitely know all their chords and then
Yeah.
some,
Yeah, yeah.
they
I guess I should
kick my
clarify
butt.
for the listeners that yeah, like that's just a joke. It's just a throwaway joke. But
Yeah. I mean, you and I get it, but people who don't live here probably don't understand that. You throw a rock in a bar and you hit an excellent musician,
yeah, it's
It's just
actually
crazy.
it's actually incredible you say that because the amount of talent here that sometimes you just see like it's just insane. But anyway, Christina. Okay, so this makes sense because you're so cultured and it translates to your music, right? And I think like, the fact that you could go to the Louvre at like 13 and that kind of stuff, like that thing matters, man. That thing like makes a difference.
I think it really does matter. I feel incredibly lucky,
Mm.
because Paris was my playground. I went back for high school, and I was very emotional as a teenager. I was very angsty. I was very artistic. I wanted to walk around the beautiful romantic streets and think about all the things that had happened there. And I would go to a lot of art museums and take photos on my digital camera and
Yeah.
cool artsy things like that. So being in such a romantic, and I'm a huge nerd. So the history of Paris, and being surrounded by teachers who like would tell me about cool stuff that had happened in the very bars we would go out at night. I really loved growing up in Paris, and I do think it informed somewhat of my songwriting. I'll say that I mostly consumed either classic American stuff from my dad, or stuff that even we couldn't ignore, like Blink 182 made it over to Europe, Kings of
Right.
Leon. But it was a lot of European bands, a lot of British,
Sure.
mostly, because I was mostly speaking English, but I listened to some French stuff. I listened to a lot of English, and
Amazing.
a lot of that was very contemporary. So it's kind of the opposite of, not the opposite, because it was still rock based. So with guitars and stuff, analog music, but
Yeah.
it was very like just more commercial sounding music than the music I've fallen in love with now, which is obviously Delta
Mhm.
blues and country and bluegrass. Those things are so uniquely American that when they come over to the UK, it's usually filtered pretty hard. Like Mumford and Sons have a banjo, but they are in no
Right.
way bluegrass
No,
or,
right. Right.
So I had no idea that whole world existed. And I was just like, I want to write, sometime in high school, I want to write songs that have cool words and sound good. That was like my only criteria. I didn't have a style I was really going for. and my natural style that came out when I first started writing was really pop folk, like
Sure.
because so much of what I listened to was like the Cranberries and Alanis Morissette, where
Right.
it's unique and it's individual and it's not pop music, but it's definitely popular. You know, it's
Sure.
music that appeals to a lot of people. So
Yeah.
it just took a long time for me to get here, but I, until recently, didn't always acknowledge how even those things that feel very far away in my past did form me in some
Oh
way
yeah,
to be who I am
100%.
now. So it's kind of nice
100%.
with this record to be able to tell my story, because a lot of people just know that I didn't grow up here, and it's pretty complicated to explain the whole thing and why I sound American,
Right.
but I'm not. And
Mhm.
so, you know, to be able to have the record explain that and talk to people like you about it in interviews is really refreshing for me, because I can be like, look, I'm not as simple as I look, I promise. Like
Oh, quite
there's
the
a whole lot
opposite. You're
going on.
fascinating. Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
Thank you.
Totally. No, absolutely. And you know, it's funny you mentioned Blink-182 and all that stuff, because all those things, like I even credit, like, my music, journalism career to like those things, man. Like those things mattered, they were
And they
throwaways, but yeah.
I absolutely agree. And in fact, coming from before I wrote music, I consumed it like so much more than I do now, because I wasn't, you know, splitting my time between creating and listening. I was just
Right.
listening, and I
Listening.
was going to concerts, and I was reading NME and
Enemy.
Kerrang and all of these magazines in the UK I knew every member of like the indie band scene in the UK, the Libertines, all of those guys, Pete and
Right.
Carl. Oh my God, my
Oh
heart,
my
you
God.
know, the
That's
Strokes, all of the indie bands. I was like right on top of that stuff. And I
right.
liked classic rock and Motorhead and
Well,
cool things like that.
even the good American ones, like the Killers, even though they're from Vegas, they
They were
broke
too
in
American
London.
for me. I didn't like
Right.
them.
Right.
They were
But
too
yeah,
poppy. But
too
yeah,
poppy. But
exactly.
they
It
broke
was
in London,
arbitrary.
you know?
Absolutely. And so we got, you know, I mentioned Kings of Leon. They were huge in Europe, apparently, when they were still pretty small here. So like
Yeah. Oh
I
wow.
saw them
Interesting.
when they were still pretty small here, but in France at a festival my family would go to on the Seine called Rock on
Yeah.
Seine. I loved Oasis. You know, it was like a lot of these bands that aren't that important here or
Yeah.
didn't have as much of an
Look at
impact
you.
on the youth. But then people here talk about, you know, Sublime and stuff, and I've never listened to them.
Amazing.
So, but Blink
Right.
182, I did
Oh my God.
loved that pop punk
Yes.
Blink 182.
Oh my God, I love it,
Good.
Christina. So, okay, so wow, it's just so fascinating talking to you. Okay, so your summers that you start gigging in New York and London. Let's go there, because like, okay, what a focus. Like at such a young age, that hunger, that focus. Where did the idea come from? And like this was the first time you kind of came to the States, right? New York?
Yeah, so basically at 18, I moved to New Jersey for college, and New Jersey was right over the border where I was.
Gotcha.
Princeton
Okay.
was right over the border from the city.
Okay.
So I was already writing music. And to me, it's funny you say that, because I actually always felt really behind, because you have all these pop stars that get found when they're 18 years old, or Taylor Swift was like 18, you know, or 16 or something crazy. And I thought at 18, 19, 20, I still wasn't pursuing music professionally. Should I drop out of college? Should I do something drastic? Of course, my dad was like, absolutely not. And I agreed with him. You know, I didn't fight him too hard on that. I thought it was good to have a backup in case music didn't work out for me. But I think I was just surrounded by people that didn't really consider music a viable career option. Like, I'm sure
Right.
if they had been told that there's all these other things you can do in the music industry that don't involve being a famous star, they
Yeah.
might have understood more. But my parents weren't like that so much, but just my peers. I was at, you know,
Here's
an
right.
Ivy League school. I was surrounded by people that were like going to Wall Street, and I was like, I want to be a musician. And they were like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know. So it was very interesting. And I was a sophomore, I think, when I went home where my dad lived in London. And I said, look, if I'm going to pursue music, I should probably figure out if I like to play shows for human beings. And I went around, thinking back now is really funny. Like, I just walked around my neighborhood with my little paper resume for music.
Uh-huh.
Like, I wrote this
Interesting.
song. I was SoundClouder of the day. And went to bars that had music and gave them my name and my card and my SoundCloud. And I was like, hey, I want to play music. And a few bars took me, one of them being Proud in Camden, which
Yeah.
I went back every week for most of the summer. And it just started to feel like an important place in my life.
Yeah.
The booker was a young girl from France and she really liked me. And I played the smaller stages while, bigger bands would come through. There was like 2 stages in the venue. It was a really cool
Mhm.
spot. And that place, I'm saying all that because that's where I first saw someone playing lap slide guitar. And
Change your life.
oh my God, it got me. Yeah,
Blew your mind.
exactly. Blew my mind, had changed the
Yeah.
direction of my music. It gave me the sound I had been searching for to
Oh my
make
God.
my
People need
own.
to listen to you live and play that guitar. What's the name of your guitar? Like,
Thank
it has to
you.
have a name, right?
Well, I actually think naming your instruments is lame. And then I was like,
I would totally name. I would name it. It's such a badass.
no, but then I
Yeah.
did. I decided to name it anyway because I am not above that. And my other instruments do not have names. One has had a name and it was a very small, stout guitar, and we called it Old Stubby, me and my friend. But this guitar, so basically, fun fact about me is I hate
Oh,
milk
beautiful.
and dark chocolate, which is very strange. I've hated it my whole life. Everything, brownies, Oreos, chocolate milk. I just don't like it.
Don't like
But
it. No.
I love white chocolate, and this
Mm.
guitar is called white chocolate.
Oh, I
because-
love it. I love it.
But what I love about this guitar the most is it has a
Mm.
blue back, and you can't see.
It's stunning.
There you can see
It's
that
and it's a
color.
for the audio audience. Like I just don't know how to describe it. You just have to see it. But it's a unique, absolutely a unique instrument, and it sounds so good. Oh,
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am very lucky that I worked at guitar shops. The first one was in LA, and that's how I got to know the people at National, which is the brand that makes this instrument. And yeah, just working at different shops and getting to know the different dealers, and then being able to choose an instrument that was really what I wanted, has just been super helpful because my guitar, it's not the nicest or fanciest resonator out there, but it's just like National makes such excellent instruments. And I played other resonators before that weren't as solidly made. And when I finally felt like I was coming into my sound and I had worked at the shop for a while, I knew what I wanted and I could get a good discount.
yeah.
I got that guitar and I love it. I just love it so much.
I love it. It's great.
Thanks.
It's great.
I'm glad other
So-
people like it too.
So okay, so you played Camden, you discovered this. Let me ask about your LA because you briefly mentioned Los Angeles. But
Yeah.
I find this chapter fascinating. You were almost there for 4 years, right?
I was there for 4 years. And I mean, I guess you could take out the 5 months I spent touring because I was technically in LA. I just subletted my apartment. But yeah, it was about almost exactly 4 years. I moved there with my ex-boyfriend out of college, out of New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And that imploded after a year or so. But we immediately moved to Venice because I didn't have a car. I was very European. I didn't have my license. And
Yeah, I saw in the video you're like skateboarding. Are you finding places here to skateboard in Nashville? No, right?
There's one place that's pretty fun that I have skateboarded, but it doesn't have any like hills.
Any good slopes,
And I don't
right.
want big hills. I'm not trying to bomb hills and die. I just want to like get a little speed. So I miss that a lot. The California lifestyle was definitely right up my alley. I love the sunshine. I'm a vegetarian and I used to lift weights. So I went to Gold's Gym, which is like the Mecca is in Los Angeles. And it was a huge gym and you could train outside and you had all this health food. You're surrounded by crazy healthy people and like,
Right.
I'm not a big drinker and the drinks there are like $15 anyway. So it was a good lifestyle. It was obviously really expensive. And there are certain drawbacks about being in such a huge city because you're quickly forgotten. But I really didn't move because I didn't like it. I moved because I think that being in Los Angeles surrounded by scenes that were not what I was doing, mostly, like, of course, there's a few people that are playing Americana and even some that play slide, but they're not many. There's not many people playing Americana and things like that compared to R&B and pop. And so
Right.
I was like hacking away at this, trying to find my place, and I just started getting wrapped up in like the wrong things, and I feel like a lot of people there had a manager and representation.
It's just a different thing. I can't explain to people Nashville. Like there's this coffee shop I went to Music Row 2 days ago, and like you go and there's people just writing songs all the time, like casually. You're like surrounded by the craft of Americana, the whole thing. It's just all around you.
And people who understand the references I'm making, because I'm not carbon copying old music. So I'm not like a traditional blues or old time banjo player. I can be, I can play covers all day, but my own music is referencing those things. So if you don't even speak that language originally, my music might sound cool. It was definitely like people were like, wow, that's cool. What's that thing? Whereas people are here are like, that's a cool dobro or steel guitar. That's a nice slide. I know what you're doing,
Definitely.
So yeah, I got really, really depressed like my third year. And I was like,
Yeah.
why don't I have a manager? Why don't I have I had fans, but not like I
You were
couldn't fill a
busking on the
room.
boardwalk, right?
Yeah, I was busking on the boardwalk a lot. I was
Which can
making
be a little hard, right?
Yeah, my first guitar actually got smashed on the boardwalk by a crazy drug addict. And I am really lucky he didn't punch me or do something worse. So there were some definitely interesting moments on the boardwalk, but it also gave me so much for my toolbox in terms of performing.
Sure.
It formed how
You've seen everything.
Yeah, but I also, when you're on the boardwalk or busking anywhere, nobody owes you a listen. When you go in a room, people will at least be like, I'm here, there's music, let me listen to what they're doing most of the time. If you're on a boardwalk, they're just going to walk by unless you captivate them in some way. So it kind of trained me to
challenge. Interesting.
Yeah, to figure out, what do people like? Why do they stop and watch other people? And I found that usually the common thread is just authenticity. And it sounds really cliche, but when they would see a performer that was so into their thing that, that you couldn't just walk by. You had to stop and look at this person who was
just too good.
consumed. Yeah. So I was like, I want to be that, and just put all of my emotion into when I'm playing and singing. And I mostly played, like, I didn't learn all these pop songs. I had like 2 pop songs in my repertoire when I really needed some money. I'd play the Lumineers or play a Lorde song, and people would be like, oh, I love the song. But I actually mostly played my own songs on the boardwalk,
Good for you, yeah.
I am proud of now looking back. I still managed to get my tips, and people would stop and buy CDs and stuff. And at the time I didn't have CDs. So I just like burned CDs on my little laptop and sharpied them, like Cristina Vane, all my demos and stuff. So there are some people out there in the world that have
I hope they save them. I hope
they don't.
I actually have a Brandy Carlisle one. I couldn't find it during the move, but like in South by Southwest in 2016, in the 11th floor of the Clarion Hotel, the Twins were giving out CDs to anyone who would listen. Saying, hey, like, we're trying. Actually, it was in 2016. It was like 2006. I'm sorry, and they're like, do you want a CD? And I was with my friend Jeff, and I'm like, sure. And I don't know where that CD is, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I won't be too sad if they can't find it, because I don't even know what those demos sound like anymore. But yeah, it formed me pretty much. But it also kind of broke me. I was just getting really down and was like, what's going on? Like, what am I doing? Why am I not good enough? And I realized that I had put my priorities in the entirely wrong basket, and that, things like a manager or a touring agent or things like that, like, that's not why I play music and why I chose to play music. So I tried to get
liberating when you had that breakthrough.
It was liberating once I actually followed through, because what that logic led me to was like, I need to get out of LA and tour. I've never really toured. I need to see if my music translates to a better audience, or like whether it's just where I am, or whether maybe my stuff isn't translating to anybody.
And that's when you did that 5-month tour, which kind of like changed your life, right?
That's right. Yeah, everything has changed since then. I did 5 months of touring, and it was my first time both living alone, camping that much. And
did you go all over the US?
I did, yeah. And because I grew up elsewhere, I really wanted to see all these places too, as like a tourist, not just as a musician. So I stopped in between shows. I spent a lot of time at national parks. I went to like Glacier, the Grand Tetons. I went to obviously the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
I won't even get into that. It was a whole thing. And so that was very inspiring for me, because a lot of the songs on this record aren't, unlike Troubled Sleep, which is almost entirely about one guy who really hurt my feelings, and we were dating, obviously, like a romantic thing. It was a lot about heartache and anger and the ways that he had wronged me and how he was a drug addict and whatever. And now, I was like, I want to write about something more than that. I'm looking at this expanse that makes my heart do these things I can't even understand. So that's, like, What Remains is about love, but it's about the
Yeah.
bigger question, not like one
I totally
person.
know what you mean. Yeah, last year I had I went to Sedona, had a similar experience. Like when you're
That
in
was my
top of this.
last night of the tour was in Sedona. That's awesome.
Really? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I was like at Cathedral Rock. You may have gone or
Cool.
not.
I
I don't know.
didn't know. I had a show in Flagstaff, but I did an Airbnb in the desert just to have, because I had been
Yeah,
camping the whole time and I wanted to like treat myself. So I got a little Airbnb in Sedona and drove
exactly.
up to
Oh, it was
Flagstaff.
great. It was great. It
Yeah.
was great. I actually did acid, which I don't do often. Like my listeners is like gonna be like, "What? Jamie does acid?" No, it's
No,
like
that's cool. It's
it
cool to
was like
try
my
new
it was
stuff.
like my fourth time in my life that I did it, but I
Yeah.
did
I
it
mean,
there.
look, you're talking to the right audience. Like, yeah, good. Go for it. Open your mind.
Exactly. But I had a similar experience in that it's like the universe is so much bigger. It's so generous.
Mm-hmm.
It's so big. Like, why are we worrying about this stupid shit? In my case, it was a divorce. Your case, a boyfriend, whatever. But it was like the same shit. It was like just give in to the universe. The universe is so much bigger. But anyway.
It is, especially when you're alone and then you have that weird mix of wanting to share it with somebody and being like, God, I wish someone was here. And then realizing that the whole point is that it's yours, you know? And like, yes, of course, at some point, maybe in your life, you'll be able to share it with someone, but that
Yeah.
if you can't even enjoy it by yourself, then why are you
But
there?
you were meant to enjoy it by yourself at that time.
Totally.
Like that was
Yeah.
your journey. You know what I mean? Okay, I
Yeah.
love it. What a
Yeah.
great story, Christina. I mean, this is like we could just talk about your trip for like an hour. So let's
Oh,
just
don't get me
kind of
started, because I
ex,
will.
like that could be a documentary. I can already like I can feel it.
If you ever want to make it, let's go. We'll drive
I
back to
can
all the
feel.
places.
Oh, I can. This is like a special thing. I love
Yeah.
it. I mean, you're just
Yeah.
beaming talking about it. But anyway, okay. So nowhere sounds lovely. Let's talk about a few of the songs, Christina. Okay, which one? Let's start with Dream Boy, which I
Yeah.
loved. It was playful. You played it at the other night at the venue. Super fun, super fun.
Thanks.
How do you look at that song like today? You mentioned that some of these songs are a little bit older, but this is a really
Totally.
catchy song. It's really fun. It's still relevant to you, right?
Yeah, especially because it was how do I say, almost like a joke when it started. I was in Zion actually at a campsite and I had this riff that I thought was really cool and I something about the word dream boy came to me. I don't know if how, but I immediately thought of like in the 50s when they had those groups of really saccharine sweet love song, like teenagers are like, my dream girl, she's walking down the street, like that kind of thing. And I was like, dream boy, what a dumb word. And then I was like, but like, what would my dream boy be like? You know, like
Yeah,
what if I were going to write a modern version of those kinds of songs, who's my dream boy? And that was
yeah,
really fun because I could just come up with all these different things that I had either seen in a cute guy on the tour and just take one aspect from his outfit. I was like, "Ooh, I like that
right,
that guy had steel boots." So I wrote a
right.
line where he has silver boots. And another guy that has this beautiful long brown hair and I was like, "Oh, my dream boy definitely has long brown hair, you know?" And
But I love that it's flawed. Like just so people know, like you don't paint the picture of like I don't know, like Ryan Gosling, like plus Brad Pitt. It's a
no.
very like you paint this like very humane like picture, and you do it with this riff, the guitar riff. Oh my god, in Dream Boy,
Thanks. Yeah, it's like ding,
I
ding,
can.
ding.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
exactly.
yeah, that's the point, you know, is that he has green eyes and whatever, but he's not so tall, but he'll f your s up. I don't know if I can
Yeah,
swear
of
on here. Um
course.
and so, yeah, I agree. It wasn't supposed to be like here's the perfect man. It was like here are all the things I like, you know, and I've dated people that were not so tall and I didn't care. I found them very attractive. Like I didn't want some like Prince Charming from Disney. I wanted this cool bad and like again things that a shiny dagger and a gun that shoots. Like no one in this century probably walks around with a dagger and steel-toed boots and has a gun. But it was like a really fun exercise. Like who is this mysterious mountain person from the past? Like
Yeah.
anyway, but
Oh
yeah,
my god,
that's why it
fascinating.
does feel playful is because it wasn't a real thing about one specific person, you know?
I love it. I love it. Well, look, you're being so
Thanks.
generous with your time. I do want to play a little game with you, but one more song I want to talk about. Let's talk about the driving song.
Yeah.
And it makes sense when you put it in the context of your story and the 5-month trip and just the incredible lyrical work here, Christina. I mean, the
Thank
stuff like I
you.
turned down the radio, I sing my own true song, you don't have to like it, like that whole lyric. Tell me a little bit about like the writing process for you for a great lyrical song like this one.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that the driving song is actually one of the two older songs that didn't come from the trip. I wrote that
Mm,
and Wishing Bone Blues before I went on my trip. I wrote them like the year before sometime. And
gotcha.
I actually think that one reflects the depression that I was feeling in LA.
Mm,
Because it that was one of the rare songs that genuinely came to me like in in full almost. I was driving down the 10, which is
yeah, the highway, right?
I yeah,
Hmm.
it's nighttime and I'm driving home alone across the 10. That I mean, I did that so much. I worked in Koreatown at Live Nation at a Live Nation venue called the Wiltern, and I lived in
Yeah.
Venice, so I just took the 10, and then I was always going somewhere, and I was always working a lot in LA. I had 4 jobs most of the time, but yeah,
That slog in the
I
highway, sorry to interrupt, it's kind of, it really takes a beating on you, doesn't it, Christina?
Yeah,
Like,
it
I like,
doesn't
yeah,
until it's like until you can't. And it depends. Like if you're driving like that, like I have been recently moving, I'm sure you understand the pain. Like you have to go to this place to get this thing and you have to go here to get that.
right.
I've been nonstop for like 3 weeks and that kind isn't fun. But when I'm driving with a destination, whether it's a show or a park or a
Mm,
campsite, or I drove to California this summer, I drove to North
yeah,
Dakota this summer. The
nice.
driving has been very interesting for me because I didn't grow up doing it. So it had the novelty and I was happy to drive a lot of the time, but it gave me a lot of thinking time. So that's where that song
Right.
came out of, is sitting in this car for countless hours and thinking about like and just feeling sad. Honestly, I was just sad a
Wow.
lot of the time
Well,
and
that's what
lonely.
Willie Nelson does. When people ask Willie when he writes his songs, he says, "I go out for a drive when I
Yeah.
need an idea."
Yeah, I mean, I don't typically, but that song definitely came to me in the car. And to your point, most of my songs aren't as wordy. There's a lot of words in each line, and I kind of wanted to do something like that. It was out of my toolbox. Um, but yeah, it just turned into like I had dated 2 addicts in a row, which is a lot for someone who doesn't do drugs themselves. The first time I just didn't know. And the second time, I think I was willfully ignorant for a
Yeah.
while. And so that whole like take these burdens away, you can do this on your own. That was like, for me, that whole part of it was just like, I can't fix these people anymore. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I am already
Wow.
struggling myself. So that was the theme of that song. Still makes me sad, but that's why I love. Oh, I'm getting like goosebumps just talking about it. I must be a egomaniac.
No,
Um,
it's
but the bridge on that song is a very big rock release. There's like this like finger picking thing and this cool chorus, and then the bridge is like, I'll drive myself right to the brink, drive so long that I can't think. Like it's just all my emotion came out in that, and I wanted to capture that all those years later in the studio when I recorded this song. That's why I put it on the record, because it just felt like it had a whole range. It was like, I'm sad, life is difficult, things are weird. Oh my God, I need release. I'm sad.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot to unpack in that song, but I'm proud of it for sure.
Oh my God. Oh my God. The whole thing, the whole album, Christina. Look, you're such a fascinating person. I
Thank
mean,
you. I needed this ego boost today, so thank you so much.
we are not gonna get through like everything I want to ask now, because we would need to take break. It would be like a seminar, like a 4-day Tony Robbins seminar. Like, okay,
Hey,
meal
whatever.
break.
I got
Meal break.
nowhere to be until 1 p.m., so don't worry
Oh
about it.
my God, Christina. All right, let's talk about another one then. Dreaming of Utah. I also loved it.
Oh, I love
Beau-
that song too.
Beautiful song. What's that? Skies are forgiving, but that don't mean it hurts. Woke up finding for mountains, for the silence that's haunted when you're truly alone. Nice.
Yeah, so that was actually one of the very first songs I wrote after moving to Nashville. So I had just come off this 5-month tour. I knew in my heart that I had to go somewhere else, but I did it. It was a weird thing. I didn't want to. I wanted to live in LA, but I didn't want to be a musician, an Americana musician in LA. I wanted to go somewhere like Nashville, which is what I
Hmm.
chose, that was closer to both the blues, like Mississippi, and
Right.
there's a lot of places that spawn the blues, but there's Texas blues, there's East Coast, but the Delta blues is really my obsession. And
Yeah.
going through there and driving through a lot of these places and seeing that, okay, I don't think I can handle living in Mississippi as a Paris raised liberal person, you know. I don't know if like a rural town in Mississippi or in
Yeah,
wherever.
Nashville is a good sweet spot. Yeah.
But yeah, Nashville seemed like I had a friend here. She had a room opening up, and it seemed really just like, okay, I'm gonna do it. You know, my stuff's
I'm gonna
all
do it.
mostly packed up from the tour anyway, so I sold
When was
whatever.
this? This was
This
how long
was
ago?
so I got back in August, and I moved by mid-September, and I was here October 1st was when I got to Nashville. So I remember waking up one day, and that was Dreaming of Utah was another one of the rare songs that came to me like it just
in a
came
second.
out.
Beautiful.
It was kind of an exercise in writing a country style song. So there's a little bit of that influence because I hadn't even heard Hank Williams until that summer. I was not. The country thing was, I was really well versed in the blues by then, but the country was like,
Right.
who's Hank Williams? Oh my God, he's amazing. Jerry Reed, he's amazing. Like all these, like the Carter family. And that was that summer.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to write something like you said, three chords in the truth. I wanted to write something slow. Waltzes or 3/8 time are usually country, not country, but there's a lot of country songs that are in that tempo, and like just a pretty chord progression that focused on the feeling I was trying to communicate. And that feeling was like, exactly, I woke up one day after dreaming about Utah, and I, you know, seeing nature like that as someone who was raised in cities, as we talked about, just changed my life completely. And like I woke up in a house again, feeling almost like I didn't want to be in a house. I wish I was still on the road, and that I learned so much being alone. So yeah, the sky is actually unforgiving in that line. Because it was like so hot. It's like the desert, right? You're in this red sand of the desert in Utah, but it doesn't mean that it's hurting you. In fact, you're growing like a little, and then it's like a little tough love feels as new as a birth.
Right.
That was me pushing myself with some tough love,
Yeah.
like being
Even
in
the
a
cell
desert.
phones, like I don't know in Utah, but like in Sedona, the cell phones like kind of useless.
Right. A little bit of like,
Uh-huh.
I don't know, just like I was so depressed when I left that it was like a little bit of tough love kind of gave me a new birth, but it was my own tough love. No one, and the nature too, no one else was being tough on me. I was just like, get out there. I was hiking everywhere, like every day, you know, I would do hikes, and it was awesome. It fed my soul, and it got me better. So like that song is also very meaningful. I'm sure if you ask me about any song, I'll be like, oh my God, I love it. But that song was actually very meaningful to me too, because yeah, that's the mountains of greener of stone as well. That was Utah, because I found that I did mostly dispersed camping once I realized I didn't like being around other people. And there's this one dispersed spot that was just like insane. I mean, there's these like little mountains that were green, like this green color stone.
Yeah.
And then like next to these red ones and orange ones and all these strange things and formations, it looked like an alien landscape. And I was just like, I just want to be there again. So that song was like an ode to my travels for sure.
Oh my God. Beautiful. Beautiful, Christina. All right, let's play a little song that we started recently called Flip the Tune. It's simple. We're just gonna play 3 10-second clips of your own songs.
Oh God.
And but they're gonna be in reverse.
Okay.
They're gonna be in reverse, and we're just gonna see how well you know your songs, if you can decipher them in reverse, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I'm very interested in this.
Cool. All right, so let's do this. It's called Flip the Tune. All right, let's start with the first one, Christina. It's 10 seconds. All right, here we go with the first one. No, wait, we go.
Oh my God, this is driving me crazy.
Cristina Vane, what's your answer?
That's off the new record?
Oh, you want some clues?
No, because I want to say it's not.
Yeah, we cover everything.
Okay, because
Not
it
just the
sounds
new
like I
record.
was singing.
Yes, it's not just from the new record.
It sounds like I was singing Restless.
That is Restless.
Oh,
good job.
That was really hard.
Good job. That was pretty solid. Pretty solid on your end to get that one. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, what the hell? Okay, here it is. Wait. Sorry, I misplaced the. Okay, here's the second one, Cristina Vane. Flip the tune.
this is sending all my love.
Yeah, easy.
That guitar tone is unmistakable.
It's unmistakable. All right. Oh, you're killing this. All right, let's do one more for the trifecta. You're doing so good with this. Easy.
That was hard.
Interesting. I thought that would be the easiest one for you.
Well, that wasn't Dreaming of Utah, was it? Or
No.
Badlands? I heard
Can't
the
help.
pedal. No, I don't know.
It's Badlands.
Oh, it was okay.
That was
I said that
Badlands.
second. I said because
Yeah.
I heard the pedal steel had Tommy Hannum does this really cool thing on Badlands. It sounds like birds. It's like pew pew. And I was like, I think that's in there, but I couldn't tell. So yeah, it was my
That was
second choice.
Badlands. Good job.
Cool.
No, okay. We'll give it to you. 3 for 3, Cristina Vane. But anyway, well, Cristina Vane, I mean, oh my God, you're such a, I mean, look, for an amazing artist. Nowhere Sounds Lovely, April 2nd. Everyone go check it out. But
Thank
you know, the takeaway from here is just like a unique and spectacular human being. Like,
Thank you.
no, really, no, like 3-dimensional, so complex in every way, like amazing. What a great chat. Thank you so much for your time, Cristina.
Thank you. No, this was really fun. Thanks for coming to the table with some great stuff to ask me. I have never had the pleasure. So
Absolutely.
yeah. And it was nice to see you at the show as well. I appreciate it a lot.
Yes, killed it. Take
Cool.
care.
You
All
too.
right. Bye.
Bye.